Development.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Maxine Lewis, President-elect.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Looking for other officers. That's all the officers I see right now. I'd like to go back and introduce the members of our board of directors. Shelly Pedraza, Seminole County Council President.
Hi, everyone.
Amy Marie Granger Welch, Hillsborough County Council President.
Hi there.
Kate Hawkins, our Central Region Representative.
Hi, everyone.
Maria Norton, Miami-Dade County Council PTA President.
Good evening, everyone.
Wendy Williams, our Membership Chair.
Good evening, everyone.
Holly DeLucia, our Resource Development Chair.
Good evening.
Felita Tutt, Chair of the Education Committee.
Good evening, everyone.
Sue Haley Nevas, and I know I always mess up your last name, Sue Haley, our Pinellas County Council President.
This is Haley Nieves. Good evening, guys.
Thank you. Tiffany Graham, Duval County Council President.
Good evening, everyone.
I'm going through the list, Blah, 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 blah. I think that I've gotten all of the members of our board of directors, as well as our BC members. I do see one staff member on. Kimberly Adamski is compliance for Florida PTA.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Okay,
did I get everyone, Bert?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Thank you again for being here. Lean in, learn a lot, and most importantly, take notes if you have to so that you can apply what you learn. It doesn't help you or our local units if you just take the information and keep it to yourself. So please share. Thanks again for being here. Back to you, Bert.
Thank you, Madam President. Next slideshow. Tonight, you're going to hear a lot of great information from Shelly Pedraza, who is our Seminole County Council President, Amy Marie Granger Welch from our Hillsborough County Council President, and Kay Hawkins, our Central Region Rep. So now I'm going to turn it over to them to give you a wealth of information that is, I'm sure you're going to be able to use to wrap up your end of your season here. Go ahead, Shel.
Thank you, Bert. So first off, we always try to start everything with our mission, right? We should start and end everything with our mission because at the end of the day, everything that we do is for our kids. So I'm going to read the mission. So PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Every child, one voice, cada niño una voz. And I think we have a poll for you all. So we wanted to make it a little fun. So we're going to do a poll. Bert, you want me to do it?
Shelly, excuse me, while you're deciding, I missed Denise Nicholas, who is our awards and recognitions chair.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. That was very sweet.
Yeah, Carolyn, you didn't miss her. She had just gotten on.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch our poll. So this is a question about nominations. We cannot see the answers. Don't worry if you get, you put the wrong thing or whatever the case is. This is just, a fun, like, okay, where are we at type of thing.
Be honest.
Yes. All right. Do you have a nominating committee? And then you have three options there for answers.
It's Sue Haley. I can't answer the question because we don't have elections this year.
Okay. County council can be different sometimes if you have 2-year terms and stuff. So that's okay. But for our local units, you should be having elections every year. I don't know of any local units that have any other options. All right, we're ending the poll. And this is where we're at. You guys can see that?
Yeah.
So Amy is gonna help some of you because
83% is a really good number.
it is. It's an
8%
awesome
I'm a
number.
little worried about there, but you know.
It's an awesome
10%
number.
we got
So-
you.
So for those of you that do not know what a nominating committee is, Amy's going to go through it now. And then those of you that the president did the nominations, that is not a great thing. You want to make sure that you have a nominating committee. Of all the committees that we have in PTA, the nominating committee is the one thing that the president should not be a part of. So Amy's going to go into it and we're going to work on that. And then do you want to do the election one now, Amy, so that you can kind of knock both of them out?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to go through the nominating first, though. So awesome that 83% of you have your nominating committee and you're working hard and you're doing it right. But maybe there's some other things you need to learn here. We'll talk about elections and a whole bunch of other stuff too. So the nominating committee needs to be elected by your general membership 30 days before your election meeting. So kind of if you haven't done that yet, we'll talk about that too. But the purpose of the nominating committee is to find new leaders, qualified leaders to lead your PTA for your elected PTA positions. They'll create your slate with the best candidates possible that self-nominate or that they recruit. And like Shelley said, the president is not part of this committee. As a president, are you always trying to find your replacement the whole year? Absolutely. And you're trying to encourage people to step up to lead. Absolutely. But you're not actually part of the committee or that process. It is the most important committee in PTA because if we don't have new leaders, we can't keep our PTA running. So you have to have a president, a treasurer, and a recording secretary. That's the absolute minimum required. But your nominations committee will look at your bylaws and see what is listed in there. There might be a corresponding secretary. There might be some vice presidents listed in there, but those are your elected positions listed in your bylaws, and they're going to recruit and find the best nominees, hopefully, for those positions. It is a confidential committee. You know, you shouldn't be, this committee shouldn't be having conversations with everybody about what happens within that committee because they're talking, you know, about the best interests of the PTA moving forward. They might be, you know, private conversations. So they should be very, very confidential between the committee members only. But that is the purpose of the nominations committee. So we'll start with the first part of the election, because now you've got your slate, because your nominations committee has presented this amazing slate of all these wonderful people that are going to step up and lead. Tips for a successful election. Use a script. There's a wonderful one on the Florida PTA website. And will this slideshow be available? Because it is linked here in the slideshow, hopefully on the Florida PTA website after this. Credentials, right? You want to make sure what your quorum is, and you want to make sure everybody's a member. So you want to make sure they have their card or they have their ID. You have a list of members. You're identifying who they are with either, like, you know, if you have a large amount of members, you could maybe do those little wristbands that don't pull off, or note cards are great, like a colored note card. Those are good ways to identify who the members are when you're having voting, because they can hold the card up. Remember, non-members can't vote or speak at the meeting. They don't have that option because they're not members. Can they join that day and be members? Absolutely. But can they vote that day? Absolutely not. They have to be a member for at least 30 days if they want to vote at that meeting. So if somebody steps up and wants to be a member so that they can be a participant in the process, they can absolutely join. They just can't vote. If you're going to have a ballot vote, so say you have two people running for a position, you want to identify who your tellers are before the meeting occurs. So make sure you know who those people are going to be, what their jobs are. You can go to the Florida PTA website And nominations and election, it walks you through every single step of that process, what the tellers are supposed to be doing, how to run a ballot election. The script is there. So you don't even have to make it up as you go along because you'll have a script. And make sure you have all your supplies if you have a ballot vote. If you do have 2 people running or 3 people or 10 people, because you have so many people that want to lead your PTA, make sure you have supplies for that. So you have some kind of index card, a box to put things in, and your tellers are going to count. So I will oh, wait, which we got one more here. Hold on. I think you're on this one, aren't you? Or am I on this one too? I am on this one. I'll keep going. I'm on a roll here. So the nominating committee will present the slate once they've read their report, and they are automatically dissolved. This is just a temporary committee. Their commitment is over. They're no longer required to stand up. Only a member who has not signed the report can nominate from the floor. So if somebody on the nomination committee wants to run from the floor for a position, they absolutely can. Only members can be elected as an officer. Remember, membership's a requirement to be to be an elected officer. So always make sure you're checking the membership for people. Can someone join that day and run from the floor? Yes, they can do that, but they can't vote for themselves. Can't vote. So, but they can do that. Must be a member, like I said, of the PTA for 30+ days to vote on PTA business. This is a part, if you don't have a nominations committee yet, you're running out of daylight here. So school year ends, for most of us, ours ends in Hillsborough, I think on the 24th. It's very short this year. You gotta have your election by the end of May. So your bylaws will state which month you're supposed to have it in. It's usually, if you're in Hillsborough, we try to put April/May, so you have the option depending on the circumstances. Some people still put just 1 month, so it might be April, might be May. If it's April, you're running out of daylight. So you need to schedule a meeting 30 days out. Make sure you notify your membership. Make sure you notify your community that you are taking nominations from the floor, and you're going to have all nominations from the floor. So can you still recruit? Should you still have absolutely should be recruiting, encouraging, making sure that you have people who are going to step up and lead. And if the election is not conducted within the school year, so by the end of the school year, then a representative from the council or Florida PTA will come out and conduct the meeting for you, either virtually or in person. So, but we'd love to make sure that you're done by May so that you can get your planning done with your school and your team, and leadership conferences in the summer. So we want to make sure you get training. So it's important that we get that done by May. So hold on, let you go. Oh, I just have a lot of slides. All right. So obviously leadership.
If you want to pause for a second, we can do the election poll now so that you can take a water break or something. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share the second poll. So this one is about elections. So there's one answer that I have heard quite a few times. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of check the temperature and see where everyone is at. So I'm going to launch it now. Suhaili, this isn't gonna, it's not gonna be something that you can answer because it goes back to the same thing. But you can answer it for fun if you want. Just for fun.
I see some of my Hillsborough peeps in here. Hillsborough strong. That's our school district's tagline now that we have a new superintendent, Hillsborough strong. So we use it as well. I like it.
All right, we're at 44 answers out of 51. I'm going to wait another second, and then I'm going to end the poll. All right, ending the poll, and I'm sharing. So this is something, Amy, that maybe we need to touch on before we move on to the next part. Absolutely. I don't know if you see the answers.
oh, we don't need elections. The board has decided to stay on another year. I'm going to say maybe one of those was Suhaili, but the other bit, you have elections every single year. Local units have elections every single year. Repeat after me. All positions are elected every single year. Whether you're staying on another year or not, you have 2 years term limit for each position on the EC, but you still have to be elected each year.
Yeah. And we have a question in the chat regarding this. So yes, 100%, just to make it clear, like in your bylaws, it says that it's a max of 2 years, but that does not mean that when you get elected, it's for the 2 years. It means that it's consecutive 2 years, but you have to be elected. Every single person on your executive committee has to be elected every year, even if they're going to be going for the same position. And then when it comes to, let's say you have a problem because we have some people that are struggling with nominations. So let's say you have a problem and you don't have any volunteers. Let's say president, because president and treasurer are probably the hardest ones to fill. So let's say you have a president that has served their 2 years. They are not able to do another year, but you really are struggling to find someone that's willing to step up to be president. So in that type of situation, maybe you can find someone that can be president with the old president that's outgoing, maybe take on a VP position where they can support the president, the new president, to kind of give them that support so they can get used to the position. So it's not so much here, let me throw you out there and you need to learn everything like, in 5 seconds. That's something that you can do. And then remember that the term limit is 2 consecutive years. So you could potentially, if you have another child coming to the school a couple years down the road, you could potentially be back in that position at another point. It's just a max of 2 years consecutively.
Absolutely.
Any other questions when it comes to elections before we move on? You can throw them in the chat. And me and Amy've got you. And Kay's in here somewhere too. She has
And I wanted to go back, Amy, to where if you had to do a ballot vote, remember to, after the election is finished, to vote to destroy those ballots, those paper ballots right away, and have that done immediately.
Absolutely. That way they don't become records. They don't stay with the records. So everybody understands that. Yeah. Another great way to maybe find leadership is engage your admin, engage your county council. Maybe they can help you and support you and come up with new ideas to help you recruit new leaders too. So sometimes it just takes a personal call from a teacher or an admin that might be able to ask somebody if they'd step up because they're super active. Paula, you got a question? What's up?
Well, I just wanted to add, if you're having trouble filling your board, remember that you only need to have the big 3 offices filled: your president, your treasurer, and your secretary. So if you're getting a lot of people who are asking about other positions on your board, you need to be really upfront with them and say, hey, we're only looking for a president, a secretary, and a treasurer, and then we'll look for anything else, because your bylaws require those 3 offices be filled definitely. And you don't have to have a vice president. You don't have to have somebody in charge of hospitality on your board. You don't need to have a lot of other things, but you have to have those 3. And so being really upfront about no president, no secretary, no treasurer, no PTA will help you find someone to step up.
Thank you. And that kind of goes back to one of the questions in the chat about what happens if a treasurer has been in the position for 2 years and no one will take on that position after. You absolutely need a treasurer on your PTA. If you do not have, like Polly said, a president, a treasurer, and a secretary at minimum, then your PTA is not able to be active and operate. So even if you need to put VP positions in support roles, just make sure that you're really paying attention to what your bylaws state, because I've had some units that are adding officers that aren't even in their bylaws. So you have to make sure that you're looking at those bylaws. If you do not have those bylaws, please reach out to your county council or Florida PTA. We have all of those copies and we can send that to you. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep moving on. If you
Yeah,
have more
Shelley.
questions, please.
Yeah, Shelley.
Oh, go ahead.
There's another question in there from Aaron. You see that one?
Erin, can we vote in our chairs at the same time if we have people who have expressed interest? No. So my especially for reflection. So it's better, your election should be officers only. And then once those officers are elected, that new executive committee will get together and then vote in the chairs for the board. So it is not a general membership vote to add in chairs. So your nominating committee can get all the information and they can get all of the interest forms and all of that stuff along with, with the executive officers, but they are not going to be the ones being voted on at the general meeting. It's a good question though, Aaron. All right, so let's keep going. If you have more questions, please put them in the chat so that we can kind of make sure that we're covering all of the questions, because we recognize how difficult nominating and elections and transitions are. Like it's a lot. It's a lot of changes. And even those of us that have been doing it for a long time, it's still hard transition. So we're definitely here to support you all. So let's keep going.
Okay.
Thank you, Bert.
So leadership transition, it's a year-round process, obviously, because you're recruiting, you're training, you're mentoring, you're laying the groundwork for new leaders to rise up, hopefully building out your chair positions, giving them a little bit more responsibility, training, having them shadow you, things like that. And you're as soon as you are elected, you're looking for your replacement. You're trying to figure out who's going to replace you and helping them, having them shadow you, having them learn, because you want to know right away if this isn't right for somebody, so you can kind of gauge their interest. All right, I got one more here. All right, so prior to officer election, so found this and I thought it was it's good because you're always like focused on the elections and focused on getting all that done, but a lot of times what we forget about is leaving our legacy and making sure that we are leaving as much information for our new board to be successful. We want to make sure all the digital stuff, if you have a Canva, make sure everything's updated, everything's in there that they could possibly need. If you have a Google Drive or Microsoft Forms Drive, whatever you have, make sure everything's kind of organized in there and it's easy to find. Make sure you have all your plans of work, all of any kind of planning document you have, any kind of notes from events and fundraisers and things that you've done that have been successful and things that you've done that have really fallen flat. You want to make sure you have that information for them. So in case somebody has that idea, they go, oh, well, it didn't work because maybe we change it and do it this way. You want to make sure you have information on success and failures. Make sure you have all the contacts for them when you transition, where you're ready to transition over. All of the chairs, all of the volunteers, all the vendors, the school staff, everybody that they would need to contact and be in touch with. Make sure you have a list. It's all in one spot you can give them. Make sure there's some kind of like day-to-day guide of what you've done for your position so that people understand what they're taking, what the role is that they're taking on, what you did in the past, so that they know the expectation is that they're going to do X, Y, and Z. If they don't know what they don't know, they're having to learn it all over again. So, and if there's an expectation level from your school for a position, you want to make sure that person coming in is set up for success. If there's stuff in progress, you've got stuff getting completed over summer. You've got a reserve line that you guys are saving money up for a particular thing. Make sure all of that information is given to the new board. Any tips, any advice that you can give so that they are successful will help you leave that legacy and help the PTA carry on successfully.
Perfect. Okay, so
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Someone just put it. Sorry, this is Stephanie Garcia. So I remember reading somewhere they have when you're doing the transition, is it 10 days or is it more days for that handoff? 'Cause I felt like, coming in, I had to do like the wild goose and chase and keep asking for things, and like the board just up and left. So I mean, I guess it's more for I have now learned, but more of to just put it out there for the people that are transitioning out, that there is somewhat of a time frame where we should be actually handing off these items so that we don't have to keep running around asking people for passwords and access to what we should have access to.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's definitely something that the new board needs to discuss with the old board. Typically, we're going to get into it, but you should have a transition meeting where the new board and the old board kind of meet and have that handoff. So we're going to go into it now, but yes, 100%. You want to make sure that you catch them before everyone goes off to summer and then people are just disappearing and then you have nothing. So you want to make sure that you are contacting them. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, so we're going to go ahead because I'm going to get in trouble here because we're behind. Okay, so make sure, please continue to put those questions in the chat. We're gonna, as soon as we finish, we're gonna try to make sure that we go through all the questions and answer them, because it is important. This is the most important time because you want to make sure that you're finishing up everything that you need to do for this year to get ready for next year, right? You want to make sure that the next board has everything that they need, whether it's you coming back for another year and with a new board or, a completely new board next year, but you want to make sure that you're giving them everything that they need. So after the officer elections, you want to make sure that you send in your new and returning officers. So you want to make sure there is a link on the Florida PTA website. If any of our VANAs would like to post in the chat that link, that would be great. If not, that is definitely something that, it's sent out all the time by Florida PTA because it's the most important way for us to be able to contact you and send you information, and also the kit of materials. So the kit of materials is something that is super helpful and it's important to have and to pass it on. So you want to make sure that you're getting that done. So new leaders ready for the school year. So you want to make sure that you are granting the newly elected officers access to your digital files, right? So Amy talked about that a little bit. Karen kind of mentioned about making sure to reminding everyone to give them the passwords, because it's great to have a link, but if you can't get in, then, we have a problem. So you want to make sure that you're handing off all those passwords as well. Any shared calendar outlining important dates and events. And this is something that we're going to get into later a little bit, but your agendas for those presidents that are in the meeting, your agendas and your minutes for your secretaries, that is essentially a blueprint for the new board. So please make sure that you have those and that you are giving that access to all of those to the new board, because that helps them so much to look at what you did in August. What did you do in September? What did you know what I mean? So it's a huge, huge help. And your budget and all that stuff. So that definitely give them everything because, I think a lot of us have been in that situation where you go into a new position and you don't have anything. And it's extremely frustrating because then you feel like you're starting from scratch and it's so much more overwhelming. And that creates that disconnect and that the issues that we end up seeing. So, okay, hold the transition meeting. So this goes back to Stephanie's question. Make sure that you hold a transition meeting with old, and we're going to call them seasoned, board and the new board. So you want to make sure that you are meeting at some point, whether it is around May, so right before school ends and everyone disappears for vacation and all of that stuff. But make sure that you are having an old board meeting. So you're finishing up your year and then you're having a new board meeting together and you compare them. So for example, your reflections, somebody mentioned reflections. I think that was Aaron. You can have your reflections chair meet with the new reflections chair, give them over the binder, the stuff that Kay's going to be talking about, and make sure that they have that discussion, that one-on-one, and say, hey, what did you do? What worked? What didn't work? Like Amy mentioned, and you get that done before everyone disappears. So it's super important to make that transition meeting. Make sure that you're sharing all of your stuff. The bylaws, if you are not given bylaws or if you are current and you don't have your bylaws, please reach out to us to make sure that we can get that to you so that you can give that to the new board. Have one-on-one meetings that discuss that, and then announce new leaders and introduce them to contacts and partners. A lot of times we tend to forget that, and that's actually, it's a super important part, because you want to make sure that people are able to kind of create those connections and those new, that rapport with the new person, especially with your principals. So once you have that new president, if you're a president and you have that new president, have a meeting with your principal and say, hey, they might know them already, but it's nice to kind of get that meeting, together, and kind of build that rapport so that way they can have a successful year. And then if you're a county council, same thing, have a meeting with the new president, with your superintendent, have that chat and get them to kind of connect, and so that they can have a successful year as well. I'll talk a lot if you guys let me. Okay. Go ahead, Kay.
So you're the president, and it's time for you to, your term is up. This is a good time for you to really sit back and literally take a step back. Your term is over. That doesn't mean you're done with PTA, but your term is over with president. You can be there if your new leaders need to ask you questions, but you don't want to be looking over their shoulder, because everyone is different. Everybody has different things to add. Maybe the new president has ideas of their own that they would like to add. And you don't want to make the new president feel like she can't make those decisions, because just because something has been done a certain way every year doesn't mean that it can't be made better or new ideas come out to the board. And you also want to reach out to your county council with your interest in moving on to county level, because just like I said, just because you're through on the local level doesn't mean that you're done with PTA, because we are always looking for new leaders in our county councils, chairs, positions, VPs, treasurers, secretaries, like we've said before. So you have the experience, you've done it. And so this is a good time to take that experience and move on to help your county council. Always do right. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. And Mark Twain said that. Okay, Shelley. Your procedure book. Everybody on your board, executive board members, chair people, should have a binder. This is very important. This binder can hold a lot of pertinent information to the person who is taking over that position. Taking a chair position sometimes can be a little bit scary for new people. They want to take on something on the board, but they're not really sure exactly everything there is to be done in that position. And first of all, if what I've always done when you're asking somebody for a chair position, make a copy out of your standing rules and put that in the binder as well. And that's in the front of the binder, and that new chairperson can look at that and say, oh, this, and this is what I need to be doing. Binders can be in a book, a hard book, on a flash drive. Make sure the flash drive works, just out of experience. Electronics files stored on a cloud to access and download. Your procedure book should contain executive board roster, job descriptions, just like I said, your current bylaws and standing rules. If you do not have standing rules, that is very important, because your bylaws govern your PTA, but your standing rules lays out what each position on your board and your chair positions do. should hold agendas, minutes, treasurer's reports from all the meetings. And remember, the secretary's minutes are legal documents, and so they have to be maintained indefinitely. And a lot of people don't realize that. So make sure that you do get all those minutes to the new secretary. PTA calendar of events and or monthly duties. They may want to look at that for the next year when they're planning to see what your PTA, your board did, and maybe add to that or make some changes. So that is a good roadmap for them. Budget and financial information, tax exemption, insurance, etc. Your insurance company, a lot of new board members don't even know who to contact for the insurance. So make sure all that is in the binder. Officer and chairperson reports. That way, the chair officers and the chair persons will know what needs to go in their reports when they are getting those ready for the meetings. Information from conferences and workshops, very important information, especially if your PTA paid for you to go to those conferences and workshops. That material really belongs to that PTA, so make sure that that is in there. Relevant communications and newsletters. Communication is very important, and that is also a good way for the new communications chair or the secretary or whoever is doing the emails knows a little bit about how you did it and maybe look at it and get some ideas. Contact information for community and business partners, very important, because when you take over a local unit, you want to make sure that you maintain that relationship with your community sponsors and your business partners. And if they don't have email addresses, names, and phone numbers, they can't very well start off the next year with who to contact for that information. Next.
Okay, treasure. This is fun stuff. So I'm gonna try to do treasure in 5, y'all. So let's see how that goes. So treasure is definitely one of those positions that I think when you're at the end of the year, it's a little bit it's semi-stressful because there are so many things that you need to make sure that you have in that binder before your audit. So I'm gonna go through everything. Please, if you're a treasurer and you're trying to figure out what you need to get done, please put it in the chat. Any answers that we do not get to, like, we will try to see if we can pull them and definitely reach out to you, or contact your county council or your region rep. We're here, like, that is our role, to make sure that we're answering your questions and we're supporting you. So please don't be afraid to reach out with the questions. No question is a bad question. It's the only way that we're going to learn. Okay. So, all right. So treasurer, ensure that all transactions have been recorded and reconciled in your records. That means, and I'll go into the details of it, because a great way of making sure that you have everything that you need is getting the actual audit form. So I don't know how many of you have seen the audit form, but it's on the Florida PTA website. You can pull it there. I know in my county, we have it on our website as well, because we're constantly pushing all of that information out. But make sure that you grab that audit form, and honestly, you can go line by line and look at it to make sure that you have everything that you need. So this is just a handful of stuff. So you want to make sure that you have the reimbursement requests and receipts. Remind everyone to deposit any checks received from the PTA or the PTSA before the end of year. So granted, if there is some outstanding checks, that's okay. And during the audit, they can put that in that line item. But you want to make sure that any reimbursements are handed in so that you can write, as a treasurer, can write the checks beforehand, because any reimbursements that come after that June 30th or whatever date the treasurer needs to have things done in time, that it has now become a donation to the PTA, because we cannot retrograde and go back and give, reimbursements for a year that has already closed out. Like that just, it makes it way too complicated. So please make sure if you have any things that you need to get reimbursed for, please give the checks, the receipts to your treasurer so that they can start that process like as soon as possible. Finish organizing your records in preparation for the yearly audit. The yearly audit, it's super fun. Finalize your year-to-date budget by comparing budget amounts to actual amounts. Prepare notes and directions for incoming treasurer. A big part of that is honestly, if you use Excel or you use a different program, show them the program, show them how to work the program. You know, you'd be surprised how many times like someone is either using Excel or something like that and they don't know how to use it. So either teach them, you know, show them how to use it, or maybe find another way that they can transfer it or pull it into something else so that they are comfortable in whatever format they are doing their books in, because it's difficult, you know. So like if you don't know how to use Excel, but you need to figure out how to make these different formulas and stuff like that, then it can be very overwhelming. And you want to make sure that you're setting them up for success. So, you know, if they're able to sit down with you and go through stuff, awesome. So make sure that you prepare the notes and the directions for the incoming treasurer, and you transfer ownership of stuff. So like, for example, Stripe, any Square accounts or anything that you have going on, make sure that you transfer those over. Bring all treasurer records to the audit committee when needed for the year-end audit. So for example, when the audit committee is going to meet, that is when the treasurer should bring the books. Do not just give it to a random person on the board for them to then take it there. We want to make sure that it is going directly to the audit committee. So I'm going to show you, I don't know how big this is and if you guys can see this or not. But I'm going to show you this little portion of the audit. And this is good for the presidents as well. Obviously, everyone on your board has fiduciary responsibility, so you want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. But the president definitely should be keeping track and making sure that, you know, the treasurer is following through with all of these things. So it states very specifically, you know, you need a copy from last year's annual audit. If you do not have it, again, you can reach out to your county council or Florida State office. They have everything there. They will have your copy and they can send it to you. All bank statements. So all banks, every single bank statement from July up until June 30th should be part of your audit. And this is one of those things that not everyone realizes this, but every single bank statement should have a signer that is not on the bank statement. So every single month, somebody should be looking at that bank statement that's not a signer and making sure that there are no random expenses or things that should not be there. And this is actually something that if you ever need to file an insurance claim, the insurance company will look to make sure that this is being done. So it's extremely important. It seems like something super small, but it's very, very important. So make sure that you're getting that done. Your checkbook register, copies of all credit card statements. It's easier, honestly, for a unit not to have a credit card. If you have a debit card, that's fine, but stay away from credit cards if you're able. All deposit slips. So like if you make a deposit at the bank account, you should have a deposit slip that goes along with that. So every single income and expense should have some type of paper attached to it, whether it's an electronic funds transfer, whether it's a reimbursement form, account sheet, whatever it is, should have some form attached to it showing where it's coming from or where it's going. Bank statements, I already mentioned that because that's super important. I tend to like mention that in like every slide that I do. And then just make sure that you definitely look at that audit form before the end of the year so that you can prepare your book accordingly. So auditors, my favorite part. Auditors, so at your board meeting, you will elect you will make an audit committee of 3 members. You can also hire a professional auditor or a CPA if your PTA is making a lot of money, because a 990 EZ can get a little complicated. So if your PTA is making over $50,000 a year, If you do not feel comfortable, doing some of the stuff, it might make sense to look at a CPA. So auditors of the PTA books must be current PTA members and cannot be signers on the bank account or have handled PTA funds for fundraisers, deposits, etc. So you want to make sure that it's someone that has not been handling funds, and they are members of your PTA. So the three of them would get together at the same time, go through the books using that form that I mentioned earlier, that audit form, and they would fill it out. And then they would sign, and you would send it over to Florida PTA. So you want to make sure that the financial audit review has to be done and sent to the state office by August 31st each year. And then you also have to make sure that the 990 is done. If you are consistently under $50,000, then you can do a 990N postcard. And it's the simplest form in the world. You just say, hey, I made less than 50,000, and bam, you're done. If you have gone over 50,000 a few times, or you are consistently over 50,000, then you have to file something different. It's called the 990EZ. And our state office is amazing at answering all of those questions and figuring all that stuff out to assist you. So any questions specific to treasurer?
Yeah, we got a question there, Shelley.
Okay. If they are not a signer, how would the person reviewing or opening the bank statement know that it is not a legitimate expense or charge? So they would still be a board member. So for example, you only have 3 signers on your account. So for example, if the signers at your local unit are president, treasurer, and secretary, then one of the VPs can be your non-account signer. If you only have 3 members, then you can, have a chair. Like if it's only 3 officers, then one of your chairs can be, but they will be in the board meetings, and they should be able to tell whether something is a legitimate expense or not based on the treasurer's reports that are coming out. Because those treasurer's reports are not just, hey, this is how much I have. It is, this is our beginning balance. This is the income that we have. And you have to break it down based on budget line item. So you don't just say, oh, we made $5,000 in August. You say, okay, we made $2,000 from t-shirts, $1,500 from memberships, this much from this much. And then you do the same thing with your expenses. And then you have a final ending balance. So if they have that information, then they can look at the bank statement and kind of make sure that it's accurate. That's a good question though. Thank you.
There's one more, Inertia.
What are cash control measures for events where cash is collected, meaning aside from board members, who can be designated to collect cash? That is something that you're going to have to kind of figure out for your standing rules. I have some PTAs that they only let their officers take cash. Some let the chairs take cash because if they're doing an event or something like that. So that's something that you would really need to look at and see if you have standing rules. And if you don't, get with your county council to maybe make something up so that makes sense for your local unit. But I've seen everyone kind of handles it differently. But always have a count sheet. No one should be handling cash by themselves. You always want to have 2 people counting money, filling out those count sheets and the deposit slips so that there is a paper trail of every single thing that happens at the PTA. And this is to protect everyone. I've seen it go sideways, and it's one of those things where you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to make sure that you're protecting not just you, but this is your membership's money. Some of our families have worked really hard, and they're donating or they're buying stuff, and you want to make sure that you're being fiscally responsible.
Shelley, also with the audits, the treasurer is not supposed to attend the audit meeting. They can be available by phone in case the audit committee has questions. But I've heard over the years that treasurers try or do attend the audit committees, and that is a no-no.
Yeah, I think treasurers get nervous. They're like, oh my gosh, let me hang out and try to help. But just drop the treasurer books off, drop off all your binders if you're the treasurer, and leave, and just be available like Kay said, on the phone, because if they need to ask a question or for whatever reason, they can call you. But that committee really should be working on their own to figure out all of that stuff. So the audit committee should be made up of chairs and or non-signers executive committee. Yes, as long as it can be anyone that's a member that is not those three signers that are currently on your bank account. Okay.
So that would also include like the president treasurer should not be part of that audit meeting.
If they're on the bank account, nope.
Okay.
If they've handled cash, you don't,
Yeah.
it's always good to have very transparent. It's people who haven't handled cash who are,
Yeah. So if you
Right.
have like
So if you have a big
fundraising year-
fundraiser and you have your chairpersons, if that's part of your unit where you have chairpersons for big fundraisers to handle cash in addition to the board, then you shouldn't select chairpersons that have handled the cash in the course of the school year as part of
Not
that
for the
audit committee.
Not for the audit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's best practices to choose someone else, just to make sure that it's clean across the board and it's protecting everyone. Jude, I'm like running out of time. Do you have, go ahead.
good one, Kimberly. No relatives.
Just Shelley, just so that there's no confusion. I know in the last few years at convention, we have advised treasurers that it is okay for them to be in the room for some form of the audits. It just boils down to the comfortability of the treasurer. So I just wanted to air that in developing the presentation for this convention, based off of presentation from last year, we have advised the treasurers, if they want to be in the room to answer questions directly, they can, but they don't govern the process. They're there to answer questions and go through the process with the committee. But to the point that Kimberly mentioned, there should be no relatives on the committee who might have been related to anyone that was a signer.
Thank you, Jude, for the clarification. And I mean, this is one of those things that sometimes things change. And to Karen's point as well, I have seen it where treasurers, like you meet at Panera, the audit committee is meeting at one table and the treasurer goes to another table and kind of does their own thing or whatever, and is there if they need support or something like that. That is 100%. If I were to do it, that's the way I would do it if I am going to have the treasurer there, just because then that way you don't feel like you're hurting someone's feelings if you're questioning what's going on with the paperwork and stuff like that, because you want to be able to ask those tough questions if something doesn't make sense, and you don't want, to hurt people's feelings or make it uncomfortable and stuff like that. All right.
Jessica has a quick question. She's asking if once the election is over, during the meeting, are signers on the account chosen and who chooses them? Would you like to answer that, or would you like me to answer that?
You can answer it.
The membership chooses, the membership votes on your signers. Obviously, you have to accept to be a signer, but and they have to be elected officers. It's usually your treasurer. I'm not a signer as a president, but we have plenty of officers that can do it. Our treasurer is, so that's really, but they have to be the elected officers, and you got to have 3. But yeah, it's your membership votes on them.
Y'all, I muted myself. Just keep in mind that you also have to make sure that the secretary puts that in the minutes, because the bank is going to ask you for the minutes, and it has to be very specific about the 3 people that are going on the bank and the people that are coming off. So you want to make sure that those minutes are detailed, and it has that, because the bank will not switch it over if you do not have that. Okay, go ahead, Kay. Sorry.
All right, the secretary procedure book contents. This is very important. They should have the current agendas, minutes, and reports. Bylaws. Again, if you don't have a copy of your bylaws, contact your county council. We can get them for you. If you don't have a county council, contact your region rep. They'll be able to help you obtain those. A copy of the standing rules, a copy of last year's audit, the Florida PTA kit of materials, and that's what you get after you have been voted on, elected, and you have registered your officers and all. Florida PTA will send out a kit of materials. The secretary should have a full copy of that in her files. Programs and calendars for the year. Vendor Vendor information should also be in there. List of members, roll call list dated. So if you took roll call at your meetings, they should be in the secretary's binders and dated. List of officers and chairs with address, telephone, and email. That helps your communication person as well if they're trying to send out information for the president or an event going on. Plan of works and event plan of works. Asset list, files, records, items, and their locations. She needs to know where all of this is because a lot of PTAs don't have a PTA room, so information can be kept at different areas. The secretary needs to know that. Flyers, newsletters, photos, scrapbooks, etc. She should have that, and she should be able to have all passwords in her binder so that if there is a problem with one of the chair positions getting into their email or any information they need, everybody will be able to find out what their password is.
All right, I will scream through this. Audrey, I just wanted to reply really quick. Your board can decide amongst themselves, but and it can be in your standing rules, but your membership still needs to vote on who your check signers are. Just keep that in mind because it has to be in those general meeting minutes. All right, so training resources. I just want to make sure everybody realizes like how much is available to you. It's all free. It's all for local leaders. At every level of PTA, there is just so much available. The local leader kit from National PTA, go on, make yourself a login. You have complete access. There's something for every single position and membership toolkit. There's just anything and everything you could possibly use to help you become proficient in running your PTA. There's e-learnings. They're nice and short, 20 to 30 minutes. Some of them are just, how to do an audit, whatever you could imagine, they're in there. The Thrive online learning community, this is all from National PTA. Online learning community, conflict resolution, DEI, I could go on and on and on, but they're usually 20 to 30 minute, nice short courses, and they are amazing. I highly suggest you go on there. You get little badges. It's kind of fun. Again, tools to help increase your PTA membership. And remember, we are a membership organization and our mission is advocacy, but we are still a membership organization. That's what makes up our voice. So if you need tools, you need ready-made social media, you need anything you could possibly imagine. One of our National PTA program members is here and very active in our membership information and doing all sorts of great resources. Her name is Denise Nicholas. She's in here right now, so you can even message her and get some tips. The DEI, all of the resources for trying to figure out like how to connect with your community. You can do a DEI profile. There's an entire guide and toolkit for facilitating conversations with your community and creating an action plan to figure out how can you reach diverse populations within your community and get them engaged. And then last but not least, give backs training. Whole bunch of opportunities there, but that's our membership software. And you can do fundraising, you can do all sorts of fun things, but first and foremost, get some training for your new people, get them logged in so that they know how to communicate, add memberships, sell memberships, and do all the great things that you can do with that. So always want to share all these resources that are available, as well as Florida PTA, as well as your county councils. We're all here, but all of this is free. So share it with your leaders.
Thank you, Amy. And we are going to kind of just wrap up because we're already at 8:02 and we want to make sure that we're honoring everyone's time. So I'm just going to go through the next couple of slides. I'm just going to show you so that when it comes out and Florida posts it on their website, please go in and you can download it. We have a month-to-month, so what to do April, May. It's kind of just a reminder of the different things that you need to get done. The biggest thing I'm going to highlight here is to make sure that you have the convention in your budget. And make sure that you are paying before June 1st, y'all, so that you can get that discount. Okay. So we're just putting that there. And then we have June and July as well. Obviously questions. And then, you know, if you have questions or you need help, please, please, please reach out to your county council or your region rep. You know, we are 100% signed up to be on county because we love helping you all. So please reach out to us and ask us questions, because, you know, it's much easier to get the question and be able to help you than for, you know, something to be done in not the best way. And then we have to kind of go back and help you, especially with this transition, because, you know, it's the new board really wants to do a good job. So we want to make sure that we're giving them all the tools that's available. And like Amy mentioned a couple times, also reach out to Florida PTA. They're amazing. We have people there specifically to work on and work and help you, you know, so that is their job. They love helping you. So it is 100% another option for you to get help. I'm going to pass it back to Bert because we're way over on time, and my apologies. I'm sorry.
Thank you, ladies. We got time. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, sorry, Stephanie here again. Just quickly, one topic that we kind of run up against from time to time when we are paying for food or for service. Are there any guidelines for tipping and how that works?
Shelley,
What was the guidelines for tipping?
Yeah. Are there any guidelines for tipping or how that works? Because we're always kind of like, oh, you know, we're making large orders for teacher appreciation, volunteer appreciation, and like, we're, you know, it's like, is 20% adequate? How does that all work? I have never heard of or seen anything regarding tipping and how that pans out on receipts and stuff.
I mean, I know for us, we have it where we have a specific amount listed in our standing rules on what is okay and what's, you know, like what we're okay doing. I guess, Amy, do you have a specific way that you do it at Hillsborough?
Sorry, I was getting a link. Repeat the question.
The tipping. Do you have specific rules in place for anything like that? Because we have it like in our standing rules, a certain amount or percentage.
I don't.
So Shelley, for you and your standing rules, is it a dollar amount or you do percentage based on what?
I think it's probably
we do a percentage. And honestly, like even, I'll be honest, it bothers me to, this is a personal thing. It bothers me to pay tips out of PTA funds. So, I mean, sometimes I pay out of my pocket, but I don't recommend the boards, the local units to do that because you're volunteers. But definitely just put a percentage on there and just make sure that it is not going over that percentage. And it needs to be something that's doable. It shouldn't be something that is way too, you know, generous.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm with you on that sentiment, because it always feels like icky. I don't want to use PTA funds to tip, but then it's also everything that we do with vendors or local businesses. It's a partnership, right? And you wanna make them feel good. Not that if they're giving us discounts for the service or for the food, you don't want to gyp them either, right? And we want to maintain those partnerships, and we want to make them sustainable. If you don't tip your driver or you don't tip the food service, it feels yucky.
Yeah. So just, I mean, Jude, do you have any advice for the tipping portion?
At the end of the day, it is a legitimate expense. You're thanking individuals for their service. It does build good morale. You know, and I would just simply, at minimum, follow the suggestions that often are written on the tips, 5, 10, 20%. Going extremely above that is where you may have an issue. But it is a legitimate expense, but having conversations with your EC, what the norm, doesn't hurt.
We've got another question in there. Kimberly, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there's a question there. Do we just get the tax exempt number from the school for purchases? You want to explain how they get the tax exempt number?
Yeah, I think Amy put the link or had responded to that with a link. You would go to the Florida PTA website and you'll request a determination letter. That's the special DR5. You want to get your own tax exempt, not use the school's tax exempt because you're a separate entity in business.
Thank you. And make sure when you're paying, if you're using your tax exempt and you're paying, it has to come from the PTA account. You can't pay with your own personal account.
Correct. And let me add just a little bit to that is if
Mhm.
you can only use the tax exempt form if you're purchasing things that you're giving away, not if you're purchasing things that you're selling. You must pay the tax on things that items that you're going to sell.
So for example, t-shirts, if you're selling t-shirts in the beginning of the year, you still have to pay the taxes on that. If you are buying water to give for free at your teacher, back to school teacher meeting or whatever the case is, then you do not have to pay taxes on that. And that's when you would use the tax exempt, but you would then pay using either the PTA debit card or a PTA check or PTA funds in some way.
Does anybody
These
else
are
have
great
any other questions? Our tax exempt is up in June. Is it automatically renewed?
Typically it is. It should be sent to the school. If not, then you should be able to contact them.
Yes, tax exempt, they're automatically updated every 5 years. If you don't receive it within 2 weeks before it expires, you can call the Department of Revenue. I have the number at the office. If you wanted to contact the state office for that phone number, just to ask them for the status, and they can also send you out a new one.
And then there's a question about teachers. Speaking of expenses, there a general guideline about gifts to teachers. I will say that there is a very specific guideline on gift cards. So if you are giving gift cards, they can be no more than $50 per person in $25 increments. So that means max 2 $25 gift cards for the year. And you have to treat gift cards exactly the same that you would cash. So you have to show like when it's coming in and when it's going out and who it's going to and all of that stuff.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. I want to thank Shelley and Amy and Kay for doing a great job tonight. Thank you guys all for being here. I want to, for the last words, is Maxine on? Maxine still here? Do you see Maxine? Carolyn, do you want to say the last words? Are you still here?
I am, but I see Maxine is still logged on.
Maxine, are you available?
Perhaps not. So I'll thank everyone for joining this evening. All of our Road to Success sessions are shared on our website. Look for it in a couple of days. The recording will be posted, and any materials that they are able to share will be posted as well. Make sure you come back every Wednesday. We generally have a Road to Success at 12 and 7 for all of the information that's available to be shared with you. If you've not yet registered for Leadership Convention, now is the time to do that. Early bird registration ends June 1st, and that's also the last day to register in order to be considered a voting delegate. Your local unit will bestow voting delegate status up to the number that they have available on people from their local unit who are attending. This is an election year. We have bylaws and resolutions coming forward because, as you know, our general meetings are where we take care of the business of our association. So please make plans to join us. We look forward to seeing you this summer, and stay trained and stay steady. Thank you.
Madam President, with the word in for the reflection ceremony, May 4th in Orlando, Lake Luna High School. We hope everyone can join us. And of course, Denise is here with the awards deadline too. Thanks.
That's May 1st for awards deadline, right, Denise? I think she's still here. And May 4th, Lake Nona High School, Melanie?
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
okay, constant contact registration went out. If you're planning to join us there, and please do. It's a perfect time to support our children and to make sure that we show them appreciation for their artistic talents, and just applaud them for taking the time to submit their entries into our Reflections program, a signature program of National PTA.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Madam President. Yes, please apply. We have until May 1st. Please get those applications in. We want to celebrate all of you for all the amazing things you do.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, everybody, for spending an extra 15 minutes with us here tonight. And we hope to see all of you at Leadership Convention in July. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.